live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Okie doke. Hello. Welcome to a Friday. In fact, the 5th of April, 2000.
Wait, what? This is a Friday?
Yeah, what are you doing?
What am I here?
Chris Potter, editor of Pittsburgh City Paper. Oh, not. You don't do Pittsburgh City Paper, right? It's just called City Paper.
No, we're Pittsburgh City Paper.
Pittsburgh
There are
City
city papers in other markets.
Okay, so. But I mean, your logo is CP. It's not.
Jesus,
P.
Lynn, why don't you look at the cover of the damn thing? It says Pittsburgh City Paper.
Yeah, but Pittsburgh gets short shrift.
No, not in my book. It's always first in my heart.
Just like City Paper gets short shrift on my sign.
Yeah. So we're all subordinate to your ego. So please, I needed to come here to find that out.
Okay, all right.
All right.
So anyway, Potter's joining us because I'm upset.
So you called me,
Yes.
just like everyone else. All right. Okay. And what upsets you, Lynn Cullen?
The fact that all holds are off on any funding for these mayoral candidates.
Yeah.
Which I hate this.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? Whoever has the most bucks wins now? I mean, what the hell?
Well, let's put this just to put it in a little perspective, so you don't throw yourself out the window. Let's remember there had not been campaign finance limits in any previous mayoral election. This was the first time that those limits were going to apply to a mayoral election. So, that said, I do expect more money to be flung around this time because obviously the past few years, we really haven't had a competitive mayoral primary. It's really not been since 2001, I would say, that we really had a
This is competitive.
Yes.
Let's talk about how much money that each of the major candidates have. Those would be, of course, the white guys, not the black guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Peduto has, as far as we know?
Peduto has, at this point, remember that the only solid numbers we really have date to the end of 2012. Because they haven't, while they've been raising money since then, they haven't actually had to file a report since then. Someday we can talk about how what really bums me out is not so much the amount of money, but the fact that they really have very few reporting deadlines. And so you don't find out where a lot of that money comes from until it's too late. It's already after the primary election. Peduto, I can't remember, he had raised about $500,000 as of the end of 2012. He had spent a couple $100,000 of it. even by that point. So, but he was doing well. He had a fairly sizable.
Yeah, I was
sum.
thinking he has like 350.
Yeah, that seems about right to me.
And Wagner now, because of this ruling, has the 300.
More than 300.
More
it's
than
actually like about 370.
Okay, so he has 370 from his former.
Yeah,
campaign.
although he blew a lot of it on lawyers, I can tell you, because he had 3 of them. He had 3 of them at this court hearing earlier this week.
Okay,
right, so he had about $370,000 left over from his previous races for state auditor general and his previous gubernatorial run in 2010. And this whole debate hinged on, well, it was supposed to hinge on,
oh dear God,
whether that money could be fairly used in the city, in a city race. And it's an important distinction because the state has no limit whatsoever on how much you can contribute.
Oh, there's a shocker. The guys in Harrisburg don't put any limits
on themselves.
It's like a free-for-all.
And I went through and found that I think I just looked at his 2012 fundraising, and I found that about half of the money that he had raised in 2012, at least half, would have been money that had he been running for a city office, for mayor at that time, the contributions were of amounts that exceeded the limits under the city. So obviously the Peduto camp said, well, look, this isn't fair. We've been raising money under our rules for our mayoral race. You were raising money as this state person with no limits at all, and there's really no way to compete. And if we allowed this to happen, then anybody out there could go and say, I'm running for governor, and then raise a whole bunch of money, and then I changed my mind. I'd rather run for mayor, and then they get to take all this money that had been raised. And here's the funny thing about what happened in this court proceeding is the judge agreed with that reasoning. The judge said, you know what? That's exactly right. The clear intent of this ordinance is to prevent exactly that sort of thing from happening. So, and then what happened is the Wagner attorneys who'd been warning, we have other arguments.
That's so weird. The Wagner attorneys had been, they went with their regular argument, but they said, and if you don't buy this argument,
we've got others.
We've got others.
And not just others, but others that will undermine the entire intent of the argument.
Here's my at that point. Doesn't Bill Peduto know exactly what that would be? Because he knows that law. He knows the law. He wrote most of it. He knows, I bet they're going to say Lamb.
Right. This is what.
So all bets are off and everything opens up.
Right.
So everybody was there because Peduto was trying to keep Wagner from being able to spend this money. And what ends up happening is that Peduto's own law ends up allowing Wagner to not only spend that money, but a ton more.
Well, here's the thing.
This was not a miscalculation by Bill Peduto?
I don't think. Two things I want to say that. One is, the provision that we're talking about was basically said, if a candidate self-finances, loans, or contributes to his own campaign or her own campaign in excess of $50,000 without previously announcing an intention to do so, the limits for all candidates come off.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me just ask a question here. Couldn't an argument be made that Michael Lamb, who did that, is no longer a candidate?
An argument could be made, but it wouldn't make a difference. The language of the ordinance simply says that if there's a candidate in the race who does this, and interestingly, in Lamb's case, Lamb apparently tried to. He went to $52,000
just to have this.
There's a theory that it's very hard.
$50,000.
It's never been clear. It's never been clear, and I keep getting too busy to call up Michael Lamb and say, "What were you thinking?" It's possible there was some kind of bookkeeping error, but on the other hand, why do you do it? He didn't need the $2,000. He had money left over. It's not like somebody had to pay the pizza guy, and he was like, "Oh my God, I don't have the money for this. I better jump in another $2,000." Sometimes candidates will loan themselves money to improve when they file the report, and then they could say, "Oh, look, I have $300,000. That's a lot of money," and then everybody's very impressed by that. So they kind of inflate their own thing. Rich Fitzgerald did that when he ran for county executive. But this was $2,000 essentially. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. Oh, like you were a credible candidate at $258,000, but not at but not at $256,000.
So that's to me. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot.
But I want to make the point. Bill Peduto did not originally want that provision in the bill. That was demanded by Mayor Luke Ravenstahl and by Darlene Harris especially.
Let me tell you. And the funny thing is this was called the millionaire loophole.
Right.
Let me tell you. setting a limit at 50,000 for a millionaire loophole is an absurdity.
Yeah, it is a strange, but the converse argument of that could be, okay, well, if you set it at, say, $250,000, which is an amount people had talked about, well, then you're basically allowing somebody to spend $225,000 on their own campaign, which is a lot of money. It's hard to know exactly where you'd set that level. 50 seems low, but maybe 250 is high. It's a
millionaire. It's chump change. Right?
The other thing I want to say about your argument, did Peduto make a misstep? I don't know what else he could have done. Say he doesn't challenge this at all, then Jack Wagner gets to use his $360,000. Now,
well,
presumably everybody out, the limits would have continued to apply from that point, but it does mean that Wagner basically, without breaking a sweat, was able to raise $360,000 that Bill Peduto really didn't have a chance of getting at. I mean, there is an issue of fairness there, and you know, you don't know what a judge is going to rule until he rules it. So right now, they're at the situation. You're right. They're certainly no worse off than they were before.
All right, but we are.
We are. I would agree with that.
Okay.
If you believe that limiting the size of contributions contributes to a healthy democracy, then we as a people are.
So whoever has access to the deepest pockets wins, or certainly has a great advantage.
Oh yeah.
Because in a race like this, where both apparently have great name recognition.
Yeah.
Voters know both of these guys.
Largely feel positively about them.
And largely feel positive about them. So then what's the difference? Maybe the difference is in who gets the best ad agency and who can, put their money to work in the best way.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, it makes me really sick. It makes me sick, just like Citizens United makes me sick.
Sure.
I hate this.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing that makes it fun, the thing that the sort of aggravating part of it is everyone claims to love these limits. Jack Wagner says, I want these limits in place. Yeah. And so everyone was defending the limits, but somehow between them, they set into motion a machinery that wiped the limits out.
Incredible.
And that's the thing that I think is sort of the kind of head scratcher about this whole thing. And then what you get is this great thing of like them sort of both sides, kind of piously blaming the other guy for it. I mean, you got Wagner, who used this money, and and clearly, again, the first part of the judge's ruling was you just couldn't do this. This is just so Peduto was right on the merits in terms of that. But you've got Wagner kind of taking this pious thing like, well, we certainly wanted to obey these rules, and I mean, on the other hand, you've got Peduto doing this thing, which is on the one hand kind of saying, this proves we must break the shackles of the political machine, and by the way, I'll be able to raise $100,000 before nightfall. You know what I mean? Like,
I got
it's this kind of interesting. Both of them are kind of talking out of both sides of their mouths on the issue.
Well, because we all know now what the game is. Okay, this is the game. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is every day now brings a slew of endorsements for Jack Wagner.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the, I would call them usual suspects,
right,
are lining up behind him.
Yeah.
What was the latest? Like practically
IBEW, Carpenters Union, a lot of the building trades.
Building trades unions. Darlene Harris, who made took a swipe at Peduto, a very personal swipe, essentially calling him what?
Hard to work with.
And petulant and keeps a gripe and doesn't forgive and doesn't play well with others and whatever. So I'm starting to feel that there's, on the part of so many of the people that seem to be jumping to Wagner now, it's not so much political as it seems to be personal. Animus. No?
Well, I don't.
Why don't these people like Bill Peduto?
I mean, look, Darlene Harris and Bill Peduto.
Well, that's
there's a long history there. So I suspect for her that is part of it. I think a lot of these other folks, and for Furlow maybe as well, who also got behind Wagner. There's
even though
no
he's
love
more
lost
politically akin to Peduto.
Yeah, in some ways,
yes,
definitely.
Yes,
so,
yes.
I think what you're seeing, and certainly the way the Peduto camp is going to say this is, as you point out, the old guard denied their first choice of candidate, the incumbent, has now decided to get behind the next best thing.
Okay, let's talk then about that. So Luke Ravenstahl will definitely endorse Jack Wagner.
Oh,
you don't think so?
No, I don't. I actually don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if you did. It would. Yeah. It would. Here's what's interesting. There was a poll out yesterday by a fledgling outfit, Keystone Analytics, and because they're new, we should just sort of put a little asterisk beside them because we don't really know. Yeah, we don't. But one of the things they showed is Wagner over Peduto, 38 to 31, 26% undecided. So we shouldn't read much. That is a huge number. And the TV ads, as you point out, haven't gone up yet, so we'll see how it goes. But when they asked people what are their top issues, I think jobs and the economy was the top one. But one of the top three, and they were all within a percentage point of each other, was investigating government corruption. And I cannot personally think of a time when I have seen a poll show that as a top tier issue, even in times when there was, all kinds of crazy stuff going on, say in Washington D.C. So if you're Jack Wagner, you have this weird little dance to do. You, on the one hand, have to stress your own good government credentials. I'm an auditor. I ferret out waste and corruption. There needs to be accountability. Da 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 da. At the same time, you're going to get support from the FOP and from from all these other organizations. From a lot of those people who helped, who certainly supported the administration that put us in this position in the first place.
That's exactly right. So that's why I think Peduto, what I keep saying to people, look, if you like the way things run in Pittsburgh and like the way it is, then Wagner is your guy because he represents the old boy network. This is the way. And Peduto, even the fact that he's not liked by a lot of these people suggests he's always been he's been an outlier.
Yes.
And if you want somebody who I suspect doesn't care about being liked all that much by his colleagues, but wants to get things done and change things, if you want to vote for change, Peduto's your guy. I got an email during the show yesterday from someone who's a city worker.
Yeah.
And he told me that he and a whole bunch of other city workers that he knows will never support Peduto.
Because
Guy Costa is on
his campaign guy. Yep. His campaign manager.
And Costa is his campaign manager?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, but that shows Peduto's still, in the... You're running for mayor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You got to have
a Costa somewhere.
You have to have a Costa somewhere. You have to have connections.
just on a statistical basis.
Gee willikers. But so, okay, my guess is the guy who wrote me that email is more politically aligned with
Could be.
Bill Peduto. No.
Okay. I don't know who your correspondent was. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I've certainly heard. Yeah. Look, any politician who's running for an office like this has, an ego along with that vision, and progressive reformer types are as suspect to that as anybody else, if not more so. And they sometimes run afoul of people's feelings. I think the Costa thing is an issue too of his having long been the director of public works, and controversial figure in his own right. And I think it's fair if we're going to say we should judge Jack Wagner by the company he keeps. I think it's fair for an employee of the city to do the same thing with respect to Costa.
And I just want to say that since Costa has no longer been the head of public works, my street gets plowed a lot better.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden the public works department, as far as I can tell, in my neighborhood works.
Yeah. Interesting.
Isn't that?
I don't know.
I don't even know who the head is now, but
Kazarowski.
Doing a good job. That's what I think. Anyway, so how many weeks before we find out who our next mayor is?
It's May 21st is the date of the primary. So
6 weeks?
Yeah, about 6, 7 weeks. Yep.
Okay, so get ready for the onslaught, because the only people that are thrilled about the judge's ruling earlier this week are the TV and radio stations.
Yeah. Even us print people don't get ads. You don't get anything. In fact, Peduto was talking about that at this gathering with reporters. I said, what does this mean? And he said, well, it means we'll be going up on TV and radio in the next 10 days. And I said, what about print? And there was a Post-Gazette reporter there, and she was like, yeah! And Bill just gave me a sad look. So there's a guy willing to tell people stuff they're not ready to hear. I'll say that for him.
Oh,
maybe he could do some internet advertising on your show.
Okay, my last question is, it would seem to me that Jack Wagner, with all the powers that be behind him, and he's cozier with the business community, and now all these unions falling all over themselves. Why, I'm not quite sure. And don't you think he has access to more money?
Yeah, I mean, more money than Peduto? I don't know. I mean, remember that Peduto has a strong ally in Rich Fitzgerald. And Rich
Fitzgerald has no money left.
It's not about what Rich has.
Oh, he can raise.
It's about what Rich can get.
Okay.
And so
that's the other question.
Yeah.
Ravenstahl's got almost $1 million.
Yeah. Last report was $750,000. I'm sure there's more than that.
Well, don't you think he might? I mean, Wagner take a lot of that money.
Not. If it comes, it'll come in the very last days of the campaign before anybody. Because look, again, nobody. If Wagner's smart, and I think he and his staff are, they don't want to be the beneficiary of a $100,000 check or something like that from the very administration whose management they're out faulting. That would be a little too obvious even for Pittsburgh, I think.
Can't stand it.
Yeah, it is something to behold, that's for sure. And it is. You have to say it does benefit. It does benefit Wagner for this reason and this reason alone. Even if Peduto raises a lot of money. The problem with those limits is it would make it the challenge of those limits posed was he got in this campaign very, very late. And so to raise a lot of money means getting a lot of different individual donations, which takes time. You get little $2,000, $4,000 chunks, just like that. So it takes time to do that. And time was the one thing that Peduto has always had more of than Wagner.
Yeah, that's right.
Wagner just didn't have it. Now Wagner can if he gets a couple of sugar daddies out there. And by the by, they don't need to be from Pittsburgh. Remember, this guy was a statewide candidate. When I looked at his campaign finance reports from 2012, there was, out of all the money he raised, there was one single contribution from an individual
in Pittsburgh,
based in Pittsburgh.
One,
and it was a lawyer from a firm that also contributed to him. The vast majority of the money Jack has in his account today came from Philadelphia people, from Harrisburg people, because of the nature of his office. Now, how many of those people will contribute to him to be mayor? I don't know, but he's got a network, conceivably, that it's easy to tap somebody on the other side of the state.
All right. Well, now that you've ruined my day, thanks.
Well, isn't that what you called me down here to do?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Glad to be of service.
Thank you, Chris. And as you see, it's
on the 20s
for a break, and you can
go and lay.
Exit the building, or at least the studio. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Yeah. Dang it. Okay, taking a break.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for a look at the Jewish Film Festival, plus Mercury Soul, Eric Clapton, and Mike Nesmith. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania, and on the web at pghcitypaper.com, and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
It's warming up outside, so get to Little's for all your spring needs. Little's has everything for men, women, and children to stay in style for this upcoming hot summer. Lots of great colors from Dansko, New Balance, Steve Madden, and much, much more. Don't forget to come visit this season's colorful handbag selection as well. Little Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okay. I don't know, so I'm unhappy. Some breaking news. Federal judge has ordered that the Food and Drug Administration has to make the morning after pill available without a prescription for anyone of any age who wants it. Jess is saying yay, even though you're over the limit. But now a girl under the age of 16 will be able to access the pill. Well, that, of course, is going to... I'm sure the social conservatives are going to be going ballistic somewhere out there in cyberspace. Also, Kim Jong Un has now taken a second ballistic missile with a, 1,500-mile range? Maybe not. And put it on a launcher. There's 2 of them now on the coast. Pointing at, what is this idiot doing? Is he trying to get his entire country blown off the map? Jeez, God almighty. So anyway, there's that, which if you're somebody who gets nervous about things like that, I haven't seen the likes of anything like that in a million years. I mean, North Korea's infamous for always making difficulties and trouble, but this kid is really upping the ante. I see that somebody sent me something with a subject line of Rolling Stones, and I bet you're going to tell me they're not playing Pittsburgh. Yeah, they are not playing Pittsburgh. Somebody called yesterday and said that they were, that he'd gotten that on the community page of the Beaver County Times, and he was really saying, what does that have to do with the community? Well, as it turns out, that's not true unless you read it incorrectly. No, the Stones do have an American tour, but they ain't coming here. They're going to Philly. They are going to Chicago. I don't even think they're doing New York. I don't know. I saw the cities. We aren't on it. That's okay. I mean, my God, it seems like they come here every 10 years, 5 years, or whatever. So that's just a correction, and I appreciate that. I saw it, too. I hate to be the conduit of incorrect information. Alrighty. Now, and now this from the alternate universe in which an extraordinarily frightening number of Americans exist within. Gun enthusiasts, fearful of new weapon controls and alarmed by rumors of government hoarding of bullets, are buying bullets at such a rate that they now, you walk into a Dick's Sporting Goods store, you're lucky if you find one. In fact, Dick's in New York, because New York just passed an actual bill which doesn't in any way prevent people from buying bullets, but Dick's Sporting Goods has actually had to put up, after it gets a delivery of ammunition, it puts a rope up. So the hordes that apparently come through the door cannot run up the escalator to where the ammo is. They are prevented from going up. They have to instead queue up. And so they can control it, so there's not like a stampede. A 24-hour Walmart in Albany was almost sold out before. People were lined up outside before the store opened. What is going on in these people's heads? And then you see, all you have to do is venture, stick a toe, one eye, into that universe that they inhabit. And good God, Mike Huckabee, who was considered a relatively rational Republican, who might make a great president, has compared, or he certainly didn't discourage, a caller to his show who suggested that what's going on in this country is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. It's exactly what Hitler did. And they're going to confiscate our guns. And you can talk reality to these people till you're blue in the face, and you can't make a dent. You know what? It took me a few years to even be able to concede the number of my fellow Americans who have gone off the deep end. It took me years to get my head around it. Years of saying, have we fallen down the rabbit hole? What's going on here? To now, wearily, I acknowledge it as fact, and I don't know what we're ever going to do. What do you do when half your country, or not half, thank God not half, but close enough, maybe a third, are in the thrall of crazed propagandists? They're living in some world in that's been turned upside down, in which reality just doesn't have much standing. They're not going away. And the potential for them to cause true trouble is huge. And you see it, you see it every once in a while when an individual, one of them, goes ballistic, pun intended. So I don't know, and my anger is reserved for the cynical people who do the propagandizing, who do the manipulation, who put out the rumors and the falsehoods to serve their own purposes. And I wish there was a law that you could, like inciting. I mean, they are inciting potential violence. Hello?
Morning.
Morning.
This thing about the guns, I was a hunter and all that. I sold my guns. I didn't get it. It was not a big deal to me. But what really gets me is how they always say, I need my gun to protect my family.
Right.
And when I owned guns, I never thought of that. And if you look at the studies, there's not that many people who have protected their family with a gun.
That is true.
I don't see it on the paper all the time. How many people protecting their with guns?
You know
That's
what?
a bunch of baloney, as far as I'm concerned.
No, you're right. Did you see, that the sheriff, it was a DA that got, and his wife, who were blown away in Texas?
Yes.
He had guns. See how much good they did him?
No.
He was shot something like 28 times.
That has to be the right situation. Almost perfect to be able to stop someone.
That is correct. That is correct. The odds are like infinitesimal. And I think the reality shows that people who have guns, who think they're going to be protecting their families, are instead endangering their families.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, but try telling that to these people,
they're
because
nuts.
The fearmongers have them.
Oh.
It's crazy, I know. It makes me crazy.
They drive me nuts, but
me too.
Have a good day.
You too. Yeah. Oh. But again, to tell them that that does not help protect their family, again, they're not going to believe that. And on an emotional level, I can see why they wouldn't believe it. No, man, I got a gun. Unless you carry it around every second of your life, loaded on your hip, I don't see how you could even think for a minute it's going to protect your family. Now, the president, just the other day in Colorado, said that Michelle had told him over dinner one night after she came back from a trip in Iowa where she was driving through the cornfields. And, she'd see a farmhouse and then go another quarter mile before she saw another house. And she said to Barack, when you're out there, you start to understand how someone living out there in that kind of isolation would want a gun to afford them some protection. Because if you see a car you don't recognize pull up to your house in the dead of night, you might be concerned. And even if you are in trouble and you call 911, who knows where the sheriff is in this big county. So Michelle was saying, you can see why somebody might say, I might have to take the law into my own hands to protect myself. And the president offered that up as a way of showing that, it's not like somebody who thinks they're protecting their family with a gun is totally nuts. It depends on where they are, why they think they need the gun, blah, 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 and that we could, understand that a little bit more if somebody is in an isolated situation. So I guess I agree with that. I don't know. Sick of it. So this Steeler player who pled guilty to God knows how many things, drunken chase, totaling a whole bunch of cars on the south side, putting people at risk. The Steelers, of course, got rid of him, and then when no one was looking, they took him back. This is Alameda Ta'amu. What he was charged with could have gotten him a lot of time in jail. Now, why do you suppose that he ain't going to serve a day? Do you think any other large black young man who had done what he did would walk away? I mean, granted, he has, he's on probation, he has this, he has to do that, blah, 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 keep his nose clean. But here again, you read that and you think justice, right? And equal justice under the law. That is just so much hooey. There is no equal justice under the law. And again, it's who you know. We have a caller. Hello. Hi.
Good morning, Lynn. It's Dave from Washington again.
Hi, Dave.
I've surrendered. Well, first off, if you think about it, and this has been said many times, today, in 2013, the world, we really do live in probably the least violent times in human history.
It's true. It is true.
On both a large global scale and on the small, little, minute, personal scale.
We are, and in this country, we are safer than people have ever been.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, not excusing these horrible massacres, which, just makes us look like the biggest idiots in the world. But this country is also belongs to those NRA idiots. And I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of fighting them. As long as nobody in my family or nobody that I know or personally care about is involved in any of these shootings, becomes a victim of it, then, I just given up. They're rare enough. I don't know how many you need to have before it becomes. I'm not making any sense.
No, but you know what I was thinking? Okay, so after these 20 children and 6 teachers are blown away, Connecticut, the state in which that happened, did pass some gun control measures.
Yeah.
And in Colorado, where Columbine happened and the Aurora Theater happened, the state of Colorado has granted, it took them a while after Columbine, it's finally come around and has passed some legislation. So I was thinking the other day, I guess what we're going to have to do is what? Every state is going to have to sacrifice 20, 40, 60 children or something?
Yeah.
Is that what we have to do now? It takes 20 children to get one state to pass gun control, some legislation, which is not even, doesn't take a gun out of anybody's hand, but somebody who definitely shouldn't have one.
The two most sensible things we could do that would have immediate impacts on all this is universal background checks, which I think should also include drug testing, and banning of high-capacity clips or magazines.
That ain't happening. Yeah, but that's not happening. It's not even being talked about.
Nope, not going to happen. Not going to happen. So, but I can wash my hands.
But
saying, I know that I have literally no blood on my hands, literally and figuratively, in this whole thing.
But
if this is the way the United States is going to be, this is the crap you guys have thrown on us, and like I say, I wash my hands. I'm not responsible for it. And I just hope that it doesn't happen to anybody that I know. It's that simple.
wow.
It's really all you can do. Well, I guess you can fight, but, you know.
We
good luck with
have
that.
been fighting. We've been fighting.
Yes, we have. And
We
look
thought
at
that-
what we've gotten. Nothing.
And as I said yesterday, the Wall Street Journal compiled this thing, and it shows that since those children were massacred, twice as many states have loosened their gun control laws
Yep.
than have tightened them.
Well, then it's up to the people in those states to vote those guys out of office. And if they don't, then that's the way they want their states to be, and so be it.
Yeah?
I'm not going to tell New York what to do with Mayor Bloomberg. I'm not going to tell the red states what to do with their legislatures. If they vote those guys in, and this is what those guys do, loosen up the laws or mandate that you have to buy a gun, what some city down in Georgia just did that, something like that. It's not going to survive a court challenge, of course. But, you know, that's your state. If that's what you want, trust me, I'm not going to go through your state if I don't have to.
Well, I hear your despair, essentially, is what it is. I'm washing your hands of it. Do you know that because the most recent run on ammo now, police departments are having trouble getting supplies?
I called my financial advisor guy. I've got a big IRA. And I asked him, do me a favor, move some money over into this thing called the Freedom Group. It's a big conglomeration of gun manufacturers. Because they're making money hands over fist.
You don't know. Then there would be blood on your hands.
Well, yes and no, but there's also money in my hand.
No.
No, I'm just
Dang
investing.
it. No.
Well, I'm just investing. Taking my money out isn't going to make a lick of difference. I am going to profit from their, no, not from their going out and killing people, but from these idiots just going out and spending all their money on guns because they think somebody's going to take them away. You know, that's why the NRA, Wayne LaPierre, these guys, they love it when these massacres happen.
I think they do, too.
They do, because then everybody rushes to the store
That's
to buy
right.
their guns because they think that the government's not going to take them away because of this atrocity. And the gun manufacturers just make money like, you know, that I feel like opening a gun store. If making money is what America's really all about.
Okay.
And I'm not responsible for what you do with your gun.
All right, you.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. So yesterday we laughed a lot. We're not laughing now, huh? I'm sorry about that. When I return, because I am taking a little break, when I return, I'm going to totally change the subject to something that's, you know, not news so much as a look at how we live. And, well, this has to do with a book that's coming out called Simple. We'll talk about how difficult simple is after this.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 30% for Tamari. Bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. Bergbargains.com.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Okay. So this is, I look forward to this book since I'm totally into what they're saying. The reality is obviously that all the, you know, I'm always squawking about this, how technology is supposed to make our lives easier. And I think in many ways all it does is flummox us, because I speak as a flummoxee. If I were to make a list of all the things in my house that I do not know how to use, I'm serious. I do not know how to use. Now, I am particularly egregious in this manner. I have a food processor, for instance, that I've never used. It looks so confusing to me. And that's not even, that's not technological. That's a mechanical. I see these blades. I don't know what to do with them. I don't know how you put it. It scares me. I have never touched it. My phone, I use it, but I can't even imagine at what percentage of its ability I'm using. Clocks that I can't change. Refrigerator ice things that I don't get. And reading, they're just one thing after the other that I'm just confused by. And there's so many options that I find it not paralyzing, but stressful. Let's put it that way. I'm sure I've mentioned this kind of thing before. I'm so glad a book's being written about it. How, you go to the drugstore and you want a tube of toothpaste. In fact, let's say you want a specific brand. You know that much. I'm going to get Crest, not Colgate, not AIM, not whatever else. I want a tube of Crest. And then it turns out there are 7,000 different permutations of Crest toothpaste. This one whitens, that one's for sensitive teeth, this one has scope in it, that one does this, da-da-da. And they come in different containers and what. And I just want a tube of toothpaste. So, think of Thoreau, who was into ridding himself of all the stresses of the world, right? So he went to Walden Pond. And he wrote, and one thing he wrote was this: our life is frittered away by detail. What year did he write that? It was almost 200 years ago, wasn't it? It was 150 years ago. He was living in a time that didn't have any of this nonsense in it. And yet he wanted to get away from the amount of time that the world as it existed robbed him of. He wanted to stop frittering away his life with detail. I'm thinking, oh man, Henry, are you one lucky son of a gun that you didn't drop down in 2013. He also wrote, listen to this, and this is true. It was true, I'm sure then, and it's true now. He said, let your affairs be as 2 or 3 and not 100 or 1,000. Instead of 1,000,000, count half a dozen and keep your accounts on your thumbnail. Simplify. Simplify. Oh. So, there ain't no way we can simplify anymore unless we want to. I guess that's what Ted Kaczynski was trying to do when he moved into that shack in wherever the hell he was, Montana. All of the things that require our attention now. Think of just the contracts that you've never read that you signed. When you're on the internet and you're trying to update something and they say, do you agree to these terms and conditions? Have you ever read Jess says no. She's never read them. She just says, I agree. What if it's saying, who knows what that's saying? You just say, I agree, because who the hell is going to fritter away their time reading that when all you want is an update? So the thing is, though, companies know that you don't read it. Insurance companies know you don't read your entire policy. So listen to this. I love this. I so love this. A company named PC Pit Stop put a user license agreement up. You know, this is the things that you never read, but you say, I accept the terms. They put one up in 2004. And in it, buried in it, was an offer of $1,000 to anyone who simply emailed the company at a certain address.
Did anyone do it?
It took, Jess said, the obvious follow-up question, did anyone ever do it? It took 5 months. And somebody actually read down to it, emailed it, and is $1,000 richer for it. Thousands and thousands and thousands of sales went through with nobody reading it, and one person did. One in 5 months, and thousands of sales. Actually, in an April Fool's joke 2 years ago, Game Station embedded a clause in their agreement saying that any user who agreed to their agreement, their license agreement, was also selling Game Station their souls. Nobody caught it. Nobody caught it. So, what does simplicity cost us? A la Thoreau, what does complexity cost us? It costs us time. It costs us, I think more than anything, it stresses us. So, consider the fact that all the choices available to us, and the array only gets larger and larger and larger. How many apps do you think are available on the Apple App Store? Give me a number. Come on, just throw out a number. How many apps, if you want an app for your phone, how many, if you were really to look through all available apps, how many would you think you would have to look through?
10 million.
Oh, wow. No, it's not that bad. 10 million, she said. No. Now it sounds like nothing when I tell you the answer. There are more than 800,000 apps. Oh, that's nothing, right?
I don't think so.
800,000?
Well, it seems like there's an
If you were to do,
everything.
okay, figure out how many hours. If you were to look at every, my God, 800,000 is forever. Okay, go to the Cheesecake Factory. Look at their menu. You want something to eat, and you have over 240 selections. And that doesn't include the lunch specials or the brunch specials, okay? Now, we're used to this. It's like, and it's insanity. 135 mascaras, 437 lotions, 1,992 fragrances available for you at one store, Sephora. And I've walked into a Sephora, is that how it's pronounced? Yeah. I've walked in there maybe needing a mascara, and I have sometimes walked out. Who the hell? How do you know? It's worse than the toothpaste. The typical credit card contract 30 years ago was 400 words. You might have read that one. The typical credit card contract now is 20,000 words. So you see what direction this is going. And it ain't good. I don't know. So I don't know if this book talks about how you get a handle on it, but I don't see how you do. Because it's being driven by such huge marketplace forces that I don't know. But I am aware of what it does to me. And simplify. Oh, that you could keep your accounts on your thumbnail. Okay, Ray's going crazy. He says, this stuff makes me crazy. He's not talking about what I was talking about. He's talking about investing in big gun manufacturers. Investing in big gun manufacturers is like investing in big camera film manufacturers 20 years ago. We will be printing guns at home in 10 years. Printing guns? This argument is a canard and a waste of our time. There are 300 million of us. How many die by crazy gun nuts versus how many die because of big corporation disinterest of big pharmacy predation? Oh, now you're going to have to flesh that baby out a little bit more, Ray, for me. So you're saying, I mean, I know people, what? What are you saying? Yeah, people die from all kinds of crap. So you're saying we've got blood on our hands no matter who we invest in? I don't know what you're saying exactly. I get a general feeling, but good to hear from you, by the way, because who was it? Tom Sokolowski yesterday was worried. He hadn't heard from you in weeks, and Tom, as you know, has a man crush on you. Okay. I think that's it. Hey! Shift in attitude on marijuana. It turns out now over 50% of Americans agree with legalization of marijuana for recreational purposes, which tells us what? That my lifelong dream of sitting in a rocking chair somewhere in my dotage, which is now right around the corner, I'll be able to smoke some pot with my old friends as we watch the sunset and sip our glasses of whatever it is we want to be taking. Maybe Metamucil. I don't know. I love it. It's coming. It's coming. Hey, all you conservatives. You know that culture war that served you so well in the past? Electorally? It's biting you in the butt now, ain't it? It is. I mean, if you think of all the things, I mean, everything but guns. Everything but guns. Gays. Look at this. Gays in the military. What were the big things? Gays, guns, and God. That was the. Well, on gays, you lost. Guns, you won. God, that will continue to be thrashed around forever since you take umbrage at, because you don't get the First Amendment, I guess, is what it boils down to. All righty. I'm sort of done. There was another thing I wanted to talk about, but it's a big subject, and it has to do with these adjunct professors. We did have an adjunct professor from Duquesne on about a year ago when they were trying to unionize. And turns out now it was the Steelworkers who were trying to unionize these poor guys. And that is spreading. And the Steelworkers are actually having a conference here. They're going to try to, it won't just be Duquesne, they're going to try to make it a national thing. They see some employees ripe for unionization because they are so outrageously exploited. When I think, the Post-Gazette today does profile one adjunct professor. This guy's an adjunct professor at practically every college in town. He teaches 8 classes at 3 different universities or colleges. He has no benefits, no health insurance, no prospect of any security whatsoever, and he's lucky if he doesn't fall into abject poverty. He probably works 80 hours a week. He has, I got to tell you this. Let's stop looking at it from his point of view. Do you think his students are getting the attention that you want your kid who's a student for the money that you pay for college? Do you not want your student for the money you pay to have access to a professor that is not running like some lunatic from class to class to class, who's not even given an office, doesn't have a place to put his coat? Think of how the cost of tuition goes up and up and up every year. And then you find out how these same universities that are taking money and money and money are having your child taught by people who aren't even making minimum wage. Now, of course, the football coach, he gets money. The science teacher, not so much. It is outrageous. Outrageous. I don't have time to go into it, but it is something I will return to again. On Monday, by the way, I will have Kathleen Newman joining us. Kathy is a CMU professor, and she wrote an op-ed piece in Sunday's paper about how she is not, her child, who I believe is in the 3rd grade at Linden School in Pittsburgh, will be not be taking the standardized tests that all kids in Pennsylvania, I thought, had to take. And she wrote a column that has gone viral about how all this crap that comes with the No Child Left Behind Act has so distorted and harmed education. And we'll have her on. She's one smart cookie, and maybe this is the start of something that can, I don't know, get rid of this testing, and teaching to the test. You see what it begets when you look down at Atlanta. Superintendents and teachers and principals going to jail. All right. Well, this was not a happy hour, was it? It's okay. You never know what you're going to get when you tune in this program. Have a great weekend. It is going to be like spring. Yay! Plant bulbs, rake crap, do anything. Get out there. Have fun. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.